Hello there, this is Bibi Cameron here, and in this video I'm going to show you the very first layer gel prints I made in my life. I know this could be a little bit scary for card making because they are busy, full of color and texture, but you can make really fun things with this. Not only to create card backgrounds, but to create endless decorative elements for your projects. For example, in this card here, I used the paper for the background, but I also stamped over the prints the clothes of the little girl and also the little bird and the thread spools. Then I just fussy cut that, and there was no need to add any color because all the color and texture was there. I just did paper piecing, so I stamped on different prints that had different colors. Then I fussy cut them and I glue them over the images. So that's a very good example of what you can make with the prints for card making. And of course, you can see the different backgrounds with all that texture and color and that unpredictable pattern in the background. There is no another way to make something like that. So I'm going to show you how I do that. But before, let me show you another sample. You might not want to do any layering. So as a bonus, I'm going to show you how to make this colorful background using also the gel press and acrylic iridescent paints, but you can use any paint that you might have. Okay, today I'm going to be using all in Create supplies. They have stamps in different sizes and these stamps are insane. They are really beautiful. They stamp very sharp images and you get images in different sizes according the stamp sheets you get. So you can see there very quick some comparison. And you also get stencils. The stencils are also insane. These products are an invitation to enjoy creativity in another level, or at least to me is a completely different universe because this is mixed media, is experimenting and being free regarding the use of the colors and texture. You can see the beautiful design and the amazing details these stencils have. And any of these can be used with any medium, and you can also apply your personal style using these supplies. I just allowed myself to be heavily inspired by the owner of All in Create. His style is free, happy, full of color. You know, it's just amazing. And I wanted to taste a little bit of that style today and share that with you. So look at these clear blocks. They are insane. Look at the size. So I thought that the larger clear block that is for stamping could be used underneath my gel press. That you can see there, that is new. It's the very first time I use it. So I'm just going to place my gel press over that plate, so that will give stability to the gel press. I'm going to be using my old brayer. This is a 6 inches brayer and also printing paper. And this is to lift the paint from the gel press when I need it. So I'm going to start by applying a very thin layer of acrylic paint over the gel press, just like that. And I'm using acrylic chalk paint. I'm going to place the stencil over the wet paint, just like that. And using the printer paper, I'm going to remove the paint from the stencil's negative spaces. And I'm helping myself with this brayer here. You can also use your hands. And as you saw there, at the same time, I'm cleaning the brayer in the back of this piece of paper. You can use cardstock if you want to get this print. That's totally optional. Okay, now we need to apply another color of paint. And I'm going to use the brayer to spread this over the stencil like so. Once this is done, I'm going to use other stencils and I'm just going to place them randomly in some areas of that piece, and I'm going to remove or lift the paint through the stencil using the printer paper. And you can see the texture this is creating on the gel press. You can also use your stamps, lift them on the acetate sheet they come, and just use them to lift the paint as well. Just like I'm doing there. You can then stamp in another piece of paper if you want to use that paint. You can use different stamps and different stencils to do this. What I want to do here is to create textures on all of the negative spaces in this big stencil. Okay, while the paint is still wet, I'm going to apply Nuvo gilding flakes. These are going to stick to the wet paint and they're going to show up behind the texture. So I'm just placing these over, and with my fingertips I'm just dabbing these into the paint. And we need to allow this to dry. Once it's dry, we can then apply another layer of acrylic paint. And remember, I'm using here chalk paints. They are very opaque, but you can use any paint you might have. And then I'm going to remove the stencil, and you will see that the first yellow layer of paint is crackling over the gel plate, and this is because the plate is new. It's okay, don't mind any extra texture. As you can see there, those little bubbles of paint, that's fine. And all we have to do here is to wait for this to dry and then apply another layer of paint. And here you have to be very careful, because with the brayer you can't lift those layers of paint that you applied before. Once you apply moisture on this, that is going to be easy to lift. So I'm going to use here ultra smooth 300 grams cardstock, using the brayer at the back and applying good pressure on this. So you might need some muscle here just to make sure that this is being transferred to that piece of cardstock. You can also use your hands if that makes you feel more comfortable. And once this is done, we just remove the cardstock from the gel press, and voila, you get a full-size print. And you can also see there those little pieces of gilding flakes sparkling in the background. So those were chalk acrylic paints, and because I want to use whatever I have in my stash, I'm going to use gouache paints, and I'm going to do exactly the same that I did using the acrylic paints. And you can see how beautiful this paint is looking over the gel press. So you can also use other mediums that are water-based on the gel press, and you can apply the same layering technique. And I was experimenting, so I allowed this to dry a little bit, but not completely. And then I decided to use this white gouache paint. But to avoid going over the gel press too many times, I just used a clear block to try to get the brayer completely covered with the white paint before going over the gel press. And this started to blend with the first layer of paint, creating a really nice pinky paint color. I like it that. Then I also use stamps to create some textures on the negative spaces of the stencil. Now I'm going to check how this print is looking. And that's the good thing about using a clear plate underneath the gel press, that you can check this out. And I'm going to allow this to dry. Once this is dry, I'm going to apply another layer of paint, just like that, and I'm going to remove the stencil. Then we are going to wait for this to dry, and we cannot use a heat tool here, nothing at all. These have to dry naturally. So once this is dry, we can apply another layer of paint or different colors, as I'm doing there. You can go completely crazy, and that's what this is all about. You will have the opportunity to be free and to start experimenting and creating with color and textures. This was so relaxing and liberating. I cannot tell you how fun this was. And this is so super cool. This took me completely out of my misery thinking about our friends in Ukraine, because actually it's all I could think about during the last weeks. Crafting makes such a difference in mental health, and also it keeps you thinking in the positive and beautiful things in life. So I highly recommend to do any kind of crafting. So I was experimenting and I decided to lift more paint out of that gel press. It looks like there is nothing there, but it's surprising how much is there. still. So I apply more paint that allowed me to moisture that and lift another print. And I'm going to keep going, then I'm going to apply another layer of paint and I'm going to make another print. And as simple as that, you can keep making prints like mental. You will end up with a pile of prints by experimenting using different paints that you might have in your stash. So that's it. That's what you need to do to create layer gel prints. Now let me show you a super easy way to create an ombre background or a degradation of color using the brayer and the gel press. All you have to do is to apply a little bit of paint on the gel press and then use your brayer to spread that paint on the gel press. And then just use the brayer to create this super duper easy background. You can keep lifting paint from the brayer and using that paint in another pieces of cardstock, or you can also place the cardstock over the gel press to lift the color. However, because I know you and you want more, you can keep going and place the stencil over your gel press and then lift the paint from the negative spaces using a piece of cardstock so that you can have something like that and you can keep working over that piece later on. And you can just do exactly the same thing I just did before. For example, here I'm going to apply a thick layer of white acrylic paint at the background and I'm going to be able to lift extra prints. But the first print I'm lifting here is going to be very dull and subtle, so depending on what you want to do, that might be also another idea. And then without applying any paint, I can keep lifting prints and they are going to be more and more bright. So this was just me tasting the waters and sharing these experiments with you. I hope you like them. I hope they inspire you to create something different and to go a little bit crazy and free to create fun, colorful, alternative compositions like these ones here. And well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. More information about these projects on my blog. The link and the supplies are in the video description. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting. Bye!